All right, all is being recorded, and I'm going to share my screen. And we'll just get right into it, right? You guys are all busy people. All right. Go view slideshow, bada bing, bada boom. Maybe give me a thumbs up or something if you guys can see my screen. Good. All right. Thank you, Sue Ann. Oh, look at that, Maddie, everybody. All right. Thank you, guys. Well, welcome to the Oakton Balance Project presents What's the Deal with Group Chats? I think a lot of people are wondering if you haven't got into the world of group chats for your kids, or maybe you have already and you're wondering like, what should we be looking out for, or stuff like that. We have some experts, local experts in the Vienna area to talk us through what is the deal with group chats. So, all right, here we go. We'll start with Jill. Why don't you introduce yourself to the
Well, hi, everyone. I'm Jill Donnelly. I'm a mom of two. I have a fifth grader and a second grader at Fairfax County Public Schools, two different elementary schools in the area. I'm also a school counselor at Cooper Middle School. I've been there for 13 years. And before that, I was an eighth grade English teacher in Fairfax as well.
Wow. All right. Thank you for joining. Jill, Maddie.
I'm Maddie. I'm a freshman at Madison High School, and do you want me to share a little bit about myself, or
Yeah, tell the people. Who are you?
My younger brother goes to Oakton. He's in fourth grade right now, and yeah.
What do you like to do?
And I went to Oakton too.
Yeah, where'd you go to middle school?
Oh, I went to Thoreau Middle School. Thoreau. Yeah.
What do you like to do for fun?
I like to play with my dogs, and I like to do softball.
Softball. A baller, softballer. All right. Thank you, guys. You guys are going to hear a lot from these folks. All right. So I'm going to get right to it. We had maybe 30 or more submitted questions. Thank you, guys all. That is going to be the format for this conversation today. I put together all the questions. I organized them into a couple, like maybe 7 or 8 different groups of the commonly asked questions. And we're just going to answer the questions that you guys asked. And then hopefully we'll have time at the end for a little bit more Q&A. But I think this will give us a good agenda for the conversation this evening. All right. So where can kids access group chats? Where can kids access group chats? I'm going to start with Jill. Jill, what are you noticing in the middle school and also in high school or in elementary school for kids accessing group chats?
Can you hear me okay, Dale? By the way,
I got you.
Okay. Yep. So in the middle school, obviously text messages is probably the biggest one for group chats. And then Instagram, Snapchat, what you're putting out. The most concerning one that I'm seeing is Discord. Which, if you're not familiar, it's a platform where kids can connect with each other, a lot of times for gaming purposes. But what I've been finding is that kids are going on Discord trying to find kids like them with common interests. There's a lot of, chat rooms on Discord. There's a lot of inappropriate content, and it's very hard for parents to monitor. So that's the one I wanted to just highlight for parents to be aware of.
Thank you. I've heard of Discord. I've never been on it, and it's good to know. The things I've heard about it is like a video game audio chat, but I don't know much more about that. It sounds like if you do have kids that are using Discord or show some interest or ask about it, maybe just look into it a little bit more before you take that plunge. Maddie, how about you? Where do you chat and where were you chatting? Actually, maybe before we start with now, why don't we start with back when you started on group chats in elementary school? Where were you chatting back then? What apps or methods of chat?
I was mostly chatting via iMessage and Gmail through school computers. I feel like at a younger age, I don't know if this is the case for other people, but I know that younger kids don't really have access to Snapchat or TikTok and Instagram. But I feel like iMessages and Gmail were two biggest things that I was using.
Awesome. And into middle school, what about middle school?
Middle school, it started going to Snapchat and Instagram and iMessages. And then Gmail was more throughout the school day. because there was like phone rules, you can't use your phone. But yeah, it was mostly Snapchat, Instagram, and iMessages.
So we'll talk more about this as we go through the next 50 minutes or so, but Maddie is a freshman in Madison, and last year was the first year with no phones at Thoreau? Is
Yeah.
that right, Maddie? So in seventh grade, kids had phones with them during the school day at Thoreau, and then last year, the FCPS switched to bell, no phones, and that's when the chatter or conversation, you can add to this, but it was more on your school laptops, right? Can you tell
Yeah.
people what that was like?
Yeah. So most of the time it would be throughout the school day, and then kids would mostly text to meet up in like the school bathrooms with their friends, or just during class and like to go like walk around the building. But they would do that, and then they would just like, you can also have group chats on Gmail. So they would chat with their friends, they would chat with their teachers, they will chat with pretty much anybody in the FCPS district that like you can, if you have their username, you can chat with them. But yeah.
Yeah. And just out of curiosity, so you're a freshman in high school now. Like, where would you say the majority of your group chats or like text messages are? What app are you using these days?
Instagram and Snapchat mostly. Yeah. A little bit more than iMessages.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know. All right. One thing we didn't mention, and we had a question someone submitted recently, about the different genders and chats. We have Maddie. We don't have a boy freshman in high school now to tell his experience about group chats the past couple of years. But from what I've heard, there's also a lot of chatting on video games and stuff like that. So if you're chatting on Roblox or other video games, that is another method of communication. Jen asked, how do kids chat through Gmail? Is it just through email messages, or are they able to access the chatting feature on the sidebar in Gmail? Great question. Maddie, that's for you.
So mostly through Gmail. You can draft a new email to a specific person or to specific people that you want to text. And let me look at the question.
Would you say it's like basically a group email
Yeah,
versus
you
like
can do
a
group emails
chat?
or you can just do one-on-one. Yeah.
Okay. Jill, what do you notice about do you have any comments on the during the day chatter?
Yes. I think the Away for the Day initiative, the cell phones being away for the day, has been a huge help in middle school, and I'm sure elementary as well, if kids have phones there, because the kids aren't, checking their phone. They know that they're not allowed to have it. It's supposed to be off. No one's trying to do that. But with the computers, all the students have computers now, and they can actually chat on their Gmail. Not just, if they can email, like Maddie was saying, they can also do the chat. And they can also go on Google Docs, which for academic purposes is great, but you can write things on Google Docs. Kids can see it. It turns into a chat opportunity, I would say. You can delete it. So there's a lot of, technology things going on with the computers that have become a big challenge for, all age groups, I'd say. Probably not as much high school, but especially for middle school and upper elementary.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So we'll move on. We got lots to get to, so we want to get through it. Are there helpful group chats? Why don't we start with Maddie for you? What would you say in your experience? And again, thinking elementary school and then middle school separate. So maybe give an answer for your experience in elementary school. Were there helpful group chats? Were there helpful group chats in middle school? And if so, what were they?
I think in elementary school, the most helpful group chat that you could have been in was, I don't really know if elementary schools do sports, but it was sports. And if you find like a group chat with, like, I don't know, your family and stuff, most of it is just like, there's not really a wide variety of helpful group chats in elementary school. But when you get into middle school, it's mostly sports and then friends. And friends is all like backpacking off of how like you do group chatting in elementary school. Like if your elementary school group chatting is like I want to say like pretty like mid in elementary school, it will be the same in middle school.
Yes. I know what that means.
Yeah.
I'm in touch. I'm in tune with the lingo. All right. If elementary school chat is mid, it's going to be mid and middle school. So just keep that in mind. All right. So are there helpful group chats? Thank you, Maddie. And you mentioned, I know when we talked last night, the sports team. So Maddie is very, it's average, like just not that good. If it's not, the chats aren't that good. And right, Maddie, right? If the chats aren't that good, they're mid.
Yeah.
If they're not that good in elementary school, they're going to be not positive in middle school. It'll just continue.
Yeah.
So, Maddie's on travel softball teams, and she was on group chats. You've been on group chats with your travel softball team through middle school for the most part, and that has been helpful for like figuring out logistics and stuff you were saying last night.
Yeah.
Okay. Jill, how about you? What do you think? Or have you noticed any helpful group chats maybe for your kids in elementary school or in middle school?
Yeah, so my fifth grader, fifth grader, and then I'll go into middle school. But I think for academic purposes, there are helpful group chats if the kids are working on a group project and they don't know the other students in their group very well, like maybe their parent, for elementary school, I'm thinking about my fifth grader and, he had a group project and they could chat within their Google Doc and on Gmail. And that was really helpful since he didn't really know those kids outside of his classroom. And I'm finding that the same in middle school. But honestly, for that age group, I think academics is probably the top helpful thing I can think of for group chats.
Yeah. All right. So I have some follow-ups, but we're gonna have opportunities to get to the things I'm thinking about. What's up, Rylan? All right. Next, what causes the most anxiety around group chats? I think this is a great question for you, Maddie. What causes the most anxiety around group chats?
100% FOMO, fear of missing out. Because if you're not in a group chat and there's people around you talking about that group chat that you aren't in, you just it hurts. It's like it's horrible. So I think FOMO is definitely the biggest thing.
Yeah. And Jill, as a counselor in middle school, you probably talk to students who are coming to you with anxiety around group chats. What are you talking to them about?
Yeah, I think it's, I, as an adult, I'm in group chats. And if you put your phone down for a little bit, I can come back to 50 messages in the group. And when you're in middle school in particular, and, you're still developing and you can't, necessarily keep up with the chat, I think that is very stressful. They don't want to miss out on what's happening in the chat. And then they feel the need to like catch up. So, for my kids who do activities outside of school, which is super important, they're coming back to their phone and they're seeing so many messages. And I think that honestly is causing the most anxiety. And at that age, I do hear about the fear of missing out and being left out. And what I've been noticing is with technology and with, talking to each other in school, even if they aren't on a group chat, they're still aware of things happening in the community or meetups, at the mall or whatever. So I think that fear of missing out, I think that is definitely something that's going to cause them anxiety with or without the group chats as well. Just in the world we live in, like everyone knows where everyone is. So that's just kind of my take. But the nonstop notifications is a huge one.
Yeah.
Huge anxiety.
Maddie, let's talk about the notifications. So I know you were in a big, again, we talked last night, we met at Foster's and chatted. So I know that some stories I can kind of lead the witness here. You had a group chat for the upcoming seventh graders. What was that, like the Sevies or something?
Yeah.
What did you call it? What was it?
Upcoming Sevies. Upcoming
Sevies. That for you guys that don't speak like I speak is upcoming seventh graders, rising seventh graders. And what was that? How many kids were in that chat? And what was that, the volume of messages in that chat?
So there was probably about most of the sixth grade at Oakton was in that group chat. So there was a lot of people in that group chat. And I have to tell you, it had to be one of the most annoying things ever. You would get nonstop notifications, and it was like most of the time you felt like you had to respond to every single one of them, but it's really just it keeps you on your phone because your phone is literally blowing up with notifications like nonstop. Like you can't set your phone down without it literally blowing up, or set your phone down and come back to it and there's like over 100 notifications left. It's just like really, it's just like on top of you, you know?
When you wake up in the morning, what was that like? You would pick up your phone and see what?
I would in the mornings I would wake up and then I'd look at my phone and then the text messages I would see that there was people online and like texting at like 3 in the morning, 1 in the morning, like really early in the morning. And I'm just like, wow. I'm like, wow, how can you guys stay up so like late? Like, are you guys like, is your health not being like drained out of you? Are you not like totally tired?
That is something to, we'll talk about that later, but the guardrails around like that we as parents should think about what time are our kids using these apps and making sure that it's healthy. One other thing to bring up about the anxiety is the tone, the missed tone in text messages, right? I think a lot of 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, they're just kind of still learning what tone is in person. And, they read the text messages a lot different than someone who's 35 or 45 years old might read it. And even you can misunderstand tone as an adult. Just think about what that could mean as a 12-year-old. So, all right, very well. I see some chat here. Marlena, when you feel the FOMO, do you feel like you can talk to anyone about it? Marlena, are you thinking like talk to your peers about that, or talk to Jill as in like counselor or a teacher or something?
Could be either.
Could be either. All right, Maddie. So when you feel FOMO and you see other kids are in a group chat, you hear them chatting about something, you're like, all right, I have no idea what you're talking about, and I'm no longer in this chat, or I'm not involved in it now for whatever reason. Are you able to talk to your friends about that in person? Most kids you find end up talking to a counselor or a teacher or parents? What's your go-to?
Most of the time, the answer is no. I feel like FOMO for a kid. Okay, well, it depends on like the grade level. I feel like as an
Yeah.
elementary schooler, you can go to your counselor and talk to it. Middle schooler, most likely your counselor, but when you get to like high school level, it's more like no. But I think elementary school counselors play a big part in helping you feel like better about missing out and stuff.
Love that. That totally rings true to my own experience as a elementary school or middle school or high schooler. Like as you age up, you kind of move into high school and you're like, you almost feel like you want to just eat it, take it on your own. And can kind of spiral a little bit. So that's good to know, Maddie. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Another question. A couple questions. Marie, what's left for kids to talk about when they are with each other face to face in person? Or is just everything going on in the group chat? Are you noticing a decline in all right, so that's a good question. So if there's a million chats going on in the Sevi's group chat, is there still a reason to like talk to people in person, or do you feel like that's kind of like that's over there and we still chat and have like a normal, who knows what normal is, but teenage conversations or whatever, preteen conversations?
I'm pretty sure there is. It's more of you don't share everything in a group chat, but that really just like depends on the type of person that you are. I know in the Sevi's group chat, like people didn't share everything about like what they were doing or about themselves. It was just really to talk to the whole grade level because we were all going into middle school together and we were all just like everyone in sixth grade was like friends with each other. So, but there is still things to talk about. You can definitely still talk to your friends. You can talk about your days. You can talk about what you're doing after school. You can talk about your sports, your hobbies. There's still a lot to talk about.
Okay, that's good.
Can I add one more thing
Go ahead,
there?
Jill. Yeah, please.
One thing I have noticed with seventh grade in particular is there's been a huge decline in seventh graders getting phones. Post COVID, I think everyone was having phones with, the group. And I know that you don't need a phone just to do the group chatting, but there has been a decline, I think, like a notable one. So I do think that more and more kids are having to talk face to face. And I started noticing the decline probably last year. And this year in particular, I've noticed a much bigger decline. And I think with the kids talking face to face, I think, outside activities, making sure, and it's a lot on the parents, right? And making sure that your kid has opportunities to have, that time off the technology is super important.
Okay. That's awesome to hear. That sounds like it matches with the bell-to-bell phone bans, right? If it's not, you're not going to school and like seeing the peer group with their phones all day, that decreases the super pressure that the kids felt probably like 3 years ago or 4 years ago or 5 years ago. They're like, man, everyone has a phone. Like, how can I leave my kid out? So that's really nice to hear. I'm going to hold Ben and Jess will hold your questions just for a minute. I want to make sure we get through this. Those are good questions, and we have we'll get to topics that are relevant to those a little bit as well. So, all right, should parents monitor group chats? I am actually going to start with Maddie here.
Okay, so as a kid, I definitely know that I have a very different stand on this.
Give your
than
honest
many
opinion.
other
Be
people.
honest, right? Tell us how you feel. It's okay.
I think as a kid, you obviously don't want your parents like going through your stuff without you knowing. So I think it is good to monitor it. As a parent, it would be in the kid's best interest to make them feel as like understood as possible. Like if you're gonna go through your kid's phone or like go through a group chat, either like let them know or do it with them in the room and present so that they feel a lot like less violated.
That's great, and that's honest, right? If I was 14 years old, I would say no. Like, no, right? No way. No, thank you. Of course not. All right, Jill, what's your opinion as a middle school counselor?
Yes, absolutely. You should be monitoring your kids' chats, their phones, their computer uses, social media, if they're on that. I also think that, kids are at this age level in middle school, they're very quick to tell their friends, my parents go through my text messages, and that really changes what's in those text messages. Just from experience to talking with parents and talking with kids, most of the time when a kid says to another few students or few kids, sorry, not students, that, my parents go through all of my texts, that text message chain or that group chat is very different. They're not saying the same things necessarily because they know that there are parents watching and that it should be appropriate. And if it's not appropriate, then, those parents are letting other parents know. So I think it's very important in elementary and middle. And I think, as Maddie said, in high school, you're getting closer to college, you're getting closer to more freedom. And, as kids get older, there should be a little more freedom, but definitely that middle school age, yes, they should be monitoring.
Yeah. I think that's good. And we talked about this last night is there's it's a progression, right? Of being that helicopter, no one's like, oh, I can't wait to be a helicopter parent. I can't wait. No, you're the parent. You have an elementary school student. They're your child, and you should know all the passwords. You should check the chats periodically, and make sure that the no devices are in the bedrooms. Maybe not at all, and definitely not overnight, right? That's like what Maddie was telling the stories of her peers that were sending messages throughout the night. Like, it's an easy way to make sure that doesn't happen for your child is to have them have a home base for the devices if they do have one, I think, Maddie, you guys keep your phones in the a family room or kitchen or something like that, right?
We don't I don't anymore. I worked my way up to not doing that anymore. But when I was in middle school and elementary school, I did have to do that. I had to charge my phone downstairs on the kitchen counter.
Yep. Very good. Yeah. And we know like a high schooler is going to be monitored different than a fifth grader, right? That makes complete sense. So elementary, I would then, you know, again, I don't know how much advice I should be giving here, but that's my thought is like complete oversight. Just make sure that and also coach them through, like make sure that they know it's about communication, you know. And then middle school, you maybe have a more random checks and not as often, but they know that you can. And then high school is just more about like trust and conversations and stuff like you have, Maddie. So that gets us into how do we do it while respecting the student child's privacy. What do you think, Jill? How do we monitor while respecting their privacy?
Well, again, I know we keep talking about it. It definitely depends on the age level. I think, you know, you wouldn't treat a 7-year-old the same way that you're treating a 13-year-old, for instance. But I do think that in middle school and below, you know, you don't have a ton of privacy at that age when it comes to online safety and online chatting. And I think being clear with your kids about that is okay. I think this generation, what we've been noticing in middle school in particular is this is like the why generation. They want to know why. You can't just say because I said so. They want to know exactly why, what's the reason. They have access to all these answers online. So I think being clear with them and explaining to them, you know, we want to keep you safe and this is why we are monitoring your chatting, and this can get out of hand very easily and people can share what you're posting in group chats. So I think just being clear and definitely monitoring them and explaining that it's, you know, I'm not violating your privacy, but I'm as a parent, I need to keep you safe.
Yeah. Question about from, I think that's Christine, Quarter Life Center. If the kids know you are monitoring, is that going to push the content to other platforms? What do you think, Maddie? That's a good question for you. So in middle school, if you knew that your parents or your friends' parents were monitoring their texts on iMessage, would the less parent appropriate texts be sent on another non-monitored app? Did you see that happening?
Yes. So it definitely does depend on what you are like chatting about, but like if it's something that you are, you know what, like I don't really care if my parents see this, they'll keep it probably on text messages. But if it's something that you're like, well, I really don't want my parents knowing about this, or like I really don't feel comfortable with my parents knowing about this, it definitely will get pushed on other platforms. So it's definitely important to make sure that like you know if that happens if you can.
Yeah. And have a good line of communication, you know, with your child. The question about can you monitor the school Gmail chats? Jill, do you know if that's possible?
It's definitely an ongoing conversation. And
With the school?
yes, I would say within the school, because it is becoming more of an issue now that each student has their own laptop. I am not sure if there's a way to monitor. I actually don't know, Lauren, if there's a way to monitor that all of the time, but I can definitely ask and, you know, get back to you. Because I actually don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. Can you monitor?
But there should be a way. I just don't know if they can do that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I wonder if it comes up on that, what's that report that FCPS parents can get, the Lightspeed report, I think it.
Yeah, it doesn't come up on Lightspeed, but it tells you if your kid is accessing Google, but Lauren's right, like they're not telling you what's in the chat.
Yeah, okay. That's good to know, actually. Maybe something to bring up with the IT departments at FCPS. Marlena, you said are kids chatting on other platforms. So that was something, is that your question, Marlena?
It's what other platforms like Snapchat, anything else?
Yeah. Maddie, you're the expert. Where are kids chatting in middle school or elementary school?
Mostly Snapchat and Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Snapchat has disappearing messages and Instagram Instagram I don't think has disappearing messages, but Snapchat's probably the bigger one.
Okay. Good to know. And a good question about the schools monitoring email messages. Maybe this is Jill, have you heard of things getting flagged on a school device, maybe like certain words or
Yeah. Yes. Very much so.
so
Yeah.
the school district has a way to monitor it.
Yes.
We
And
just
they
don't-
are heavily monitoring. That
Okay.
does happen. Yes. Correct.
Can you tell us a quick story, like an example of something that's been brought to you? Maybe that would tell a story about what that is.
Well, I don't know if there's a specific story that I could share, but I can tell you when you're asking about like flagging, self-harm or violence or threats, like there's a big team of IT people that are monitoring for, certain words or certain terms that are being used. And I know
Yeah.
we're going to get into this later, but I think that's important to mention too about chats and how to monitor as a parent and some of these apps that are out there to like flag
Yeah.
certain terms and certain words, because I think that's important to mention.
All right, Christine, let's hold that Finsta question. I do want to ask that. That's a great question for Maddie. Let's hold that. I want to get through this and then please ask that again if we forget. I want to get to the bullying conversation. Maddie, can you tell us what do we do if bullying happens, and do you have any experience with it?
I do have an experience with bullying. When I was in, I believe 5th or 6th grade, I was cyberbullied, by people that I thought were like my closest friends. It is a horrible experience, and if it does happen, you will 1,000% realize a change in your kid's behavior. They will start to be a lot more distant, and they will definitely be a little bit more sad. Like for me, there was this one day I just like couldn't handle it anymore, and I just like started crying in front of my parents. And then my dad noticed, and he was like, "Oh my gosh." He's like, "Maddie, are you okay?" And so I told my dad everything that happened. And I also went to my school counselor about it. And school counselors, they don't get enough credit, dude. They're literally amazing. Like my school counselor was a lifesaver. I went to her, I talked about it, and she honestly made me feel so good about the whole situation. But yeah, so if you notice bullying happening in your child, or if you are being bullied, you definitely should go talk to a counselor or your parent.
Maddie, you said you'd be up for telling a little story. Do you mind if I press on it a little bit? I don't want to.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You can, we don't have to dig up stuff if you don't want to, but you told us a story last night. What app were you using? What happened? What was the story?
I was on iMessages, and I was in a group chat with some of my friends, and I'm pretty sure we were just talking, and then we got into a little argument, and then one of them had said, okay, this was like, looking back on it now, it's not as bad as I thought it was, but me being who I was at the time, obviously this was hurtful for me. My friends had told me that I was as short as a beer can. And then they had said some other pretty mean stuff, but I don't really remember all of it. Try to
Yeah.
leave that in the past. But like yeah, and then they just like kept on going. It just mean comments just keep on coming forward. And it's on iMessages, so like you can literally just like scroll back through the messages, and like you can just like keep seeing the messages like over and over again. Just replay the moment. It's horrible.
So I'm so sorry you had to go through that, Maddie, but I know that you had a good support system. Can you tell us like what you did with that? Like what did you do? Who did you talk to?
I talked to my dad firsthand. And then I talked to my counselor, Mrs. Tabers, that she used to work at Oakton, doesn't anymore. But and then my parents talked to the people who were being mean to me. They talked to their parents, and they fixed their child's like attitude and like, I don't know, just like texting
etiquette. Yeah,
attitude,
learning how to
etiquette. Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost immediately. It was a good change. I like that the parents were very responsible about it.
So your parents took screenshots, right?
Sent it to
That's
the
one thing
parents.
to
Yeah.
make sure you do as a parent. You notice the bullying, right? Take screenshots so you have evidence, and it's easy to be like, oh, it couldn't be my Johnny or Sally or whatever. Like they're 10, they'd be bullying. They're nice, but 10-year-olds, they get on chats and just they're kind of be a little different. You keyboard warrior even as a 10-year-old type of thing. So unfortunately that happened for you, Maddie, but you went to your parents, that they were super supportive. I know that story. And you also, like you said, you went to the school counselor and she was very helpful.
Oh,
To
yes.
shout out.
And I will add, I did do some therapy. I did art therapy for my experience, art therapy. If your kid needs to do therapy, like if it is that traumatic, I do recommend art therapy because it's really good. It's really easy to express your feelings in therapy and art since you're like a kid, and it's just like so colorful and they love it.
Maddie, I mean, I'm so glad you're here telling us the story and like sharing telling us this type of story can help us prevent these things from happening. So you're doing a big service for everyone here and everyone that will watch this. And thank you for telling the story. Jill, you're the counselor and people come to you. What do you notice or what advice do you have from when bullying happens?
Yeah, so there's a lot there. And Maddie, I'm so impressed by you, by the way. Amazing. But I get reports from kids. I also get reports from parents. I get screenshots sometimes. And I think what's tough is that, stuff happening online, if bullying is happening in a group chat or in a group situation online, it's going to bleed into other places. It's going to bleed into school. It's going to bleed into activities. It's going to affect a child, not just online. So I think that's the important thing to remember. Like if this is happening online and it's affecting your kid in all sorts of other environments, it's important for parents to get involved. I tell middle schoolers because, they're at the age they want to handle things themselves. But I tell them, if you're dealing with an adult issue, and bullying is an adult issue, it's a big enough issue that kids can't usually fix that on their own, then you need to get an adult involved. So that's kind of my rule of thumb. If it's that big of an issue where you can't fix it with a friend, tell a trusted adult, whether it's your parent, whether it's someone at school, something like that.
Yeah. Thank God for counselors and caring parents. We had the session we had held in May. We had the steward, Nathan, I think, or Caitlin, I forget which one gave the example, but someone asked our high schoolers that we had on the panel in May, like, what if your child is getting bullied for not having a phone or not being part of whatever, right? The group chats in this example. And they're getting bullied at school. And they gave such a great example. I think it was Nathan, said that, at least then they can leave it at school, right? So just something to think about. Like the bullying happens, it's as old as time. But when you start getting into the group chats, especially big group chats, it follows you home and it can't just monitor. So thank you, both of you. All right. How do we say no when everyone else is on it? Jill, you have a good answer for this one.
Well, I mentioned before, the kids want to know why. I mean, my fifth grader, he wants to know why. Why can't I get a phone? Well, being super clear with your kids, I think, is important. I tell him it's may affect your mental health and your outside activities and your sleep. And frankly, I don't think you're old enough for it. So I think that, every family has their own perspective and own rules. And of course, every kid is different. Kids mature at different times. So I think that unfortunately, there's not one correct answer here. And I don't know that I could give, just a clear answer on that. But I do think it's important for, families to stick to their beliefs and their rules and to share that with kids. And again, I do think that other kids are starting to realize like, oh, okay, your parents said no. Okay. They're letting it go more, I think, now than maybe a few years ago even. So we are progressing in that way.
That's great. And for Maddie, if you had take yourself back to 6th grade or 7th grade, like late elementary school, early middle school, if you had a friend or knew someone that wasn't in the group chat and they were like, hey, my parents just won't let me get on chats. Like what's the vibe to that response? Are kids understanding?
Yeah, kids are pretty understanding about it. It's as soon as they hear that your parents like aren't like allowing you to do it, they're just like, oh, okay. Like that just means you're being a good kid. Like, good job listening to your parents. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everyone has lame parents. It's no, right? They get it. I want to actually go back. I wonder if I can. Can I go back here? To the bullying thing. I actually had one other thing to mention, or question for Maddie. This is the hypothetical, or you had an experience with this too. When someone leaves a group chat, what is that like? Or they get kicked out of a group chat. What is that like?
Well, when someone leaves a group chat, it's depending on what they're leaving it for. If they're leaving it for a good cause, then everyone's just like, okay, just like let them be, like let them blow off their steam, just let them be, let them figure this out for themselves. Or if they like leave it because they're mad about something that someone else is doing, it's just like nobody really wants to add them back.
Yeah.
Because it's just like that just like means that they are the problem.
Have you ever seen someone get kicked off a group chat? And what is that?
Yes.
What is that, the
Yes.
feeling that like if you were to get kicked off a group chat, how would you feel?
I'd feel horrible. I would feel horrible. I've never personally been kicked off of a group chat, but I would feel horrible. Like, you know that you definitely upset somebody if you guys were in an argument or if you had said something. But yeah.
Yeah. So that's part of it. That's like a version of bullying, right, Maddie? Where you kick a girl off a group chat or a friend off of a group chat. That's like a way of being bullied these days. So
Yeah.
Sorry, I wanted to make sure we address that. Should we tell scary stories? What do you think, Jill?
I think again, I wouldn't tell a high schooler the same thing I would tell a 6th grader, but I do think it's helpful to show kids what research is saying about their development. And whether that's kind of looping in a little bit of the scary story, sure, but I think just highlighting the fact that, upset feelings, anxiety, isolation, being addicted to like chatting or phone usage or anything like that. I think that is all helpful information that you can frame to, your elementary schooler, middle schooler, or high schooler in an age appropriate way.
Yeah, I like that. Think of it as like teaching versus scaring, right?
Right. Yeah.
All right. No, this is more for Jill. Maddie, we'll go to the next one. Let's see here. And Ben, I see your questions. I know we got a couple questions. We're almost done. We're going to the takeaways and guidelines, and then we're gonna I think we'll still have like 5 or 10 minutes for Q&A. All right. So if you're gonna take like a picture or screenshot a slide, I would say this is the one. There's maybe 1 or 2 after this that are also helpful. But 5 recommended guidelines that Maddie, Jill, and I came up with. The no large group chats before middle school or maybe even in middle school, and large is flexible, right? Maybe a 10-person softball team group chat is different than a 10-person just like group of friends group chat, right? Where you're talking about logistics for practice or something. But in general, the bigger the chat, it sounds like, is the more things can go wrong. So the one-to-one chats are better, but try to limit the number of people that you allow in a group chat. Jill or Maddie, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I agree.
Okay. All right. And we heard Maddie's story about the Sevies. We know that like 200-person group chat. What that was like. All right, no devices in bedtime or bedrooms overnight. Set a time that you're just consistent with. If it's 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or whatever it is, when the phones or whatever they're using for chatting should be put in a bin, kitchen, or living room or wherever, with clear consequences if they're not, right? And then parent has access to the device and does random checks. Make sure, again, it's about communication. It's easy for Maddie when she's 12 to be like, dude, mom, like, you didn't tell me that you were going to check my phone, and then you checked my phone. But the conversation is a lot different. It's like, hey, Maddie, I'm going to check your phone once a week, or like randomly whenever I want. I paid for it. It's my, like, then that conversation is different after that. Hey, I saw this on your phone, just so you know. Oh, all right. It's a lot different. One-to-one texting is always better than group chats. Talked about that. And if drama starts, exit the chat early, right? Avoid the downfalls. All right. Another one. I added this today. Some other options, right? I thought that would be helpful, of just like, if you're going to do group chats, here's what to look out for, and the do's and do nots. Here are some other options. Staying connected without group chats. We have at our house an UMA home phone. That has been great. The kids can call their friends and schedule their own play dates and stuff. There are basic mobile phones where you can text and have more monitoring on those phones, the Bark, Gab, Pinwheel phones, and also flip phones, where you're not having to deal with like full internet access phones and stuff like that. And then if your child does have a smartphone, third-party tools that can help parents stay involved. Maddie, what does your family use?
My family uses an app called Custodio. So it's okay. So for my parents, it's a very helpful app. I personally don't like it, but that doesn't really matter because I'm the kid. But they can set downtimes on it where I basically cannot use any app except for text messages if I need to text my parents. And they get alerts if I use certain words. They get alerts if I like what websites I visit. They get to know whenever I'm on my phone, like whenever I turn it on. They get to know how much I've been on my phone throughout the day, and then they can just like control my screen time.
Yeah, and these are third-party apps. You have to pay for them. But if you have the resources, and you feel like your child is ready to explore this world of chats and stuff, then I've heard great things. I know Maddie's mom was telling us like this, the Custodio has been great. It has AI software built in where if there's words, even like trigger words sent in on any app on the phone, they'll get a message. The parents get a message like, hey, this alerting you to what was said. So, all right. We'll go to closing questions and then some Q&A. I got to catch up with some questions that were asked in the chat. Thank you, chat. Shout out, chat. Closing questions for Jill and Maddie. I'm actually going to start with Jill because Maddie, I changed your closing questions so you can look at this and think through it. I don't know if your mom told you about it yet today. So Jill, if you could give one piece of advice to parents around group chats, what would it be?
I think the biggest piece of advice I would give is that to have clear conversations with your kids, that anything they put in a group chat is not private. I've seen way too many instances where kids think their group chat is a safe space and a private space. And then, stuff in the chat is getting shared to Snapchat. It's getting shared in separate text messages. And then, there's hurt feelings. It carries on into school and activities, like I mentioned before. So just explaining that, what you're putting in a group chat, that can be made public in a minute, right? So just being super careful about that, and also reminding kids about empathy and what they write in a text, how it's making other people feel. I think that's just super important for them to be reminded of.
Amazing advice. Thank you, Jill. Anything you send in a text or any device, if you type something and send it to somebody, just assume that your principal or your mom might see it, right? I think that's a good rule of thumb. Maddie, if you could give a piece of advice to an elementary age kid, or maybe like a 7th grader, 8th grader entering the world of group chats, what would it be?
I think the biggest thing is just be as nice as possible and don't use words that have like that can be interpreted different ways because text has no tone and like if you say something that someone could interpret a different way, it could definitely quickly escalate something.
Good stuff. Awesome, guys. All right, we're getting to Q&A here. There we go. All right, and Marlena said another tip, understand how to use the technology and settings before you allow your child or student to use it. Great tip. All right, so Q&A.
Dale, I copied 5 questions. I won't
Okay.
paste them in chat again. Okay.
All right, go ahead. Ben, I saw you had a question about like the popular kids versus like maybe the less like quote unquote popular kids, like how the social dynamics are impacted with the group texting and group chats. Maddie, have you noticed that, like where there's the popular kids are more active in group chats and like the maybe more quiet kids are more passive or not in the chats? How do you see that impacting social dynamics in middle school or elementary school?
The more popular kids are definitely more active. That's 100%. I feel like that just makes them less talkative and that just like gives them you feel most of the time kids feel safer when they're texting people because it's like behind a wall and it's not like face-to-face confrontation. But for popular kids, I feel like they just have more things to relate to with people in the group chats rather than in real life, if that makes sense. And then the less popular kids, they're just really not in the group chat, so you don't really see a difference. They're just themselves.
Can I add, Dale, that
Yeah, please.
one thing I've been noticing, and this is a generalization just from my experience, but I am noticing that kids that are involved in less activities after school, whether it's sports clubs, whatever, I do think they are spending a lot more time group chatting to connect with other kids. But I'm seeing, some of my like serious athlete kids or kids that are super in after school clubs, like they don't have that kind of time to be on their phones or computers chatting as much at that age in middle school, like 7th grade specifically. So I am seeing that, the kids that are involved in something outside of school, it's not as big of a thing for them because they're getting that social interaction and they really just don't have that kind of time. So I'm starting to see that, and that's a change, like post-COVID, after COVID, that was a whole different story, but we're starting to see the change where kids are, they're getting back to the activities, they're getting back to having packed schedules, and that's really helping with this whole chatting online thing.
Nice. That's good. Good to hear. Nice. There was a question about the Finsta accounts. I think Finsta is a fake Instagram account. Again, I speak this language. So Maddie, do you see friends who their parents monitor their like main Instagram account, but they have fake Instagram accounts or maybe fake Snapchat accounts, like burner accounts, whatever you want to call it, where they can send messages that they think their parents won't be seeing?
100%. 100%. Yeah. I know of a lot of people that have like their main Instagram accounts and then they have their spam Instagram accounts where like they block their parents on there. So that their parents like can't, like they don't even know that they have the account. And then they also have that for Snapchat, except it's a little bit harder to manage.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think that would be possible using the Custodio app that you have on top of your phone? Would that even be possible?
On Instagram, yes, it is. On Snapchat, probably not.
Oh, interesting. Noted. All right, Jen, you've got some work to do. All right, what else? We had other questions. There was another one. Are you seeing kids change their views on social media? As we are getting a better understanding of the harm it's having, are kids choosing to spend less time on social media? Maddie, what do you think?
From my personal experience, I have definitely stopped using social media a lot compared to how much I used to use it. It's honestly draining. It's really draining. It gets really annoying after time. But I feel like I've definitely seen a change in myself, and I know my parents have too. I used to be horrible. I just like hated everything when I was constantly on my phone, and I was just like constantly on Instagram, and I was just like mean to everybody. But now I've stopped using it, and I feel like I've just become a much better person, and it like lifts your spirits, like, you know what I mean? Like it takes a lot off your plate, like a lot less to maintain.
Wow, that's great. I mean, these personal stories, this is like the best part of it, I think. You know, we learn a lot from Jill and the middle school counselor, but like, and it's hearing from a, I don't want to call you a kid, but a high schooler. This is like gold, I think, for all of us. Thank you. And all right. Does anyone have any other questions? I have a couple more. Wait till they think, oh, wow, that was quick. Any other questions out there? Let's say like 2 or 3 more minutes for questions. Someone tell me if I missed a question. All right. So I posted the wait till 8th. It's just like a shout out, wait till 8th. If you're not signed up for wait till 8th, maybe take a minute. You can, this is the screenshot for the Oakton Elementary wait till 8th, I believe. But there have been significant increases in over a dozen elementary schools and middle schools, elementary schools, I guess, in FCPS in like the Vienna, McLean, Falls Church area, Fairfax, this year. I mean, Colvin Run has 138 families signed up for wait till 8th. I mean, they have 32 second grade families signed up for wait till 8th. Franklin Sherman and McLean, Flint Hill and Vienna, Laurel Ridge, and Oakton and Vienna. That's great stuff. So sign up for wait till 8th. It takes like 3 minutes to sign up. The value for wait till 8th is if you do sign up and your grade level at your school hits 10 families signed up, then everyone gets an email saying like, hey, your grade's been activated and here's the email addresses of the other families that have signed up. So then you can start organizing and getting the word out for delaying stuff. So
Can I add one more thing to that? The wait
go
till
ahead,
8th.
Jill. Yeah.
It's actually a super helpful resource just to read through it, even if your kid already has a phone or whatever. But the wait until 8th website is really helpful. It's taught me a lot, actually, things that I didn't know. So I think it's just worth checking out that whole website. And then obviously I love this initiative. I'm hoping my kids' schools can get in on this. But that website has a lot of really good information about, you know, just the whole concept of waiting until 8th. So
Yeah.
shout
Shout out wait till 8th.
Does it seem like schools are supportive of it? Because I feel like sometimes there's been some mixed responses from an admin level.
Is that for Jill?
the
If
concept
other
of
people had it.
wait until 8th, or just the website itself?
Oh, I guess just to bring it into schools you know, like our schools always supporting it.
Like advertising and stuff, marketing and
Yeah, I don't know if schools are advertising it because it's such a parent choice. But I think it's great.
Yeah.
As a school professional and as a parent, I think it's a really good initiative. But I honestly don't know if every school is behind that or not.
Hey Ben, can you put our Oakton Balance Project website link in the chat real quick? So that's another resource. Speaking of resources, Wait Till 8th is a great resource. We have Oakton Balance Project. This is the group that we have. Ben's going to share this. There's the link if you want to check out our website. But if you've never been to our site, it has a lot of our resources and other events that we host in the Vienna Oakton area. And we also have a WhatsApp group chat. If you're not on the group chat, we have an active WhatsApp group chat for the Oakton Balance Project. If you want to stay in the know for these types of conversations. And yeah, any final questions or thoughts? It's 8:31. We're gonna release everybody.
Dale, I just Marie here. I just want to say one thing.
Go ahead.
There is, and not to scare everyone, but there is increased surveillance too on social media by the government more and more as well. So be careful regardless of whatever you put out there, what you say. This also goes for adults. If law enforcement wants to, they can pull your text messages from very far back. They can pull Snapchat, they can pull Instagram messages, because a lot of the tech companies are cooperating very much with the government and have in the past. So be very wary what you put out there, because it can be grabbed and taken. And now with AI, we don't know what can be done with it. So I know I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but you can read these things in the news. They are happening. And you don't want to put your children in that type of very serious and scary situation. So I would just add on top of that to be very wary.
Yeah. Thank you, Marie. All right. And with that, thank you, Maddie. Thank you, Jill. Thank you all for joining tonight. This was so helpful. We learned a lot. I really appreciate you guys coming out and sharing your insight. I'm going to stop recording, and you guys have a wonderful night. Happy President's Day.
Thanks, Dale.
Thank you, Dale.
Dale.